Currently, I am playing a chess tournament, which is basically a state official tournament, and the top four winners are going to be selected for the nationals. And as you know, I live in India, so yeah, it's a very tough competition. So basically, I live in Gujarat, in a state in India. So yeah, there is going to be total 9 rounds in the total, and for now, 4 rounds have been completed successfully. So basically, I'm going to do a recap of all the 4 rounds. I was not able to upload video yesterday of the starting 2 rounds because I was very tired. I just came home at like around 9 p.m. So I was like already very sleepy. So I just eat and went to sleep. So yeah, but luckily here I am making a video at 8:30 p.m. So like yeah, it's the rounds were completed much sooner. So yeah, let's first quickly jump into the first game. It's going to be very interesting. And after showing all of the 4 games, I'm going to show you the results in the chessresults.com, which is the official website for uploading the chess results in of a game of a chess tournament, basically. So yeah, let's jump into the first round. So I am playing with the black pieces and I'm having a rating of 1654, which looks like absolutely less compared to the Grandmaster, around 1000 points less. But that's the fact, we can't help it. My opponent is an unbeaten player, and total around 120 players are playing the tournament. So yeah. So my opponent playing with the white pieces starts out the game with 1d4, and I am playing with the black pieces replied with knight to f6. Knight f3, and I thought that perhaps he's planning to play the London. So I played d5, and I was like, if he plays bishop f4, I'm going to play c5. But he plays e3, and I was like, he's underrated. I played c5, still c4. And after c4, I decided to capture the pawn on d4, ed, knight c6, knight c3. And when I was playing the game, at this point, I was thinking to develop my bishop to g4. And when I was thinking bishop g4, I thought of queen b3, hitting this and hitting this. And from here, I began to realize that now, like, it's actually like a exchange Caro-Kann structure. Because let me just show you. In the exchange Caro-Kann, if you play c6, we have this. And in this particular opening, I've already made a course which says that we first need to take and then we need to play queen b3. And yeah, the line goes on and it's a pretty drawish line and it's very complicated. So as you know, I didn't want it to make a draw, so that was the reason I decided to play e6 in this position, which is the main move. And basically there are 2 main moves to continue the position, which is e6 and g6. I decided to play e6, which is a very solid system. He developed his bishop to d3, and here I decided to capture the pawn on c4. After bishop into c4, you can already sense that the d4 pawn is extremely weak. It's an isolated pawn, and I simply continued with bishop e7. I was pretty happy with my position. Like, black is now at least just slightly better, I would say, because of the weakness of d4 isolated pawn. Short castle, and he played rook to e1. And after rook e1, I played b6 because I want to develop my bishop to b7 because it is the most ideal square for the bishop. And here after b6, I was already suspecting him to play bishop to f4, which actually looks the best move. Like, you develop a piece, you're having a piece of a good square, so what more do you want? But actually, after playing b6, he played b3, which actually surprised me because I thought that now he's going to simply copy me. I already got to know that he's simply copying me. Now the bishop is already bad compared to the f4. Like, guys, this is the basic problem of the beginners. They do not have this idea that what is the best square there any minor piece belongs. That is actually the main problem with many chess players in the lower level. After bishop to b2, I decided to play knight to b4. Because in this position, as I know that d5 square is extremely weak, I want to put my knight to d5, which is one of the most good square for the knight. He played knight to e5, thinking that it's a good square. Definitely, guys, it's a good square. But the reason is, First of all, it makes my bishop on b7 much stronger, and second, the knight on e5 looks extremely strong, but nothing is happening. So as I played knight to d5, he decided to trade a pair of the knights and played bishop to f1, which again surprised me. I was like, why is he simply pulling his bishop back? But again, perhaps I thought that he was going to play g3, bishop g2. So here I first played bishop b4, hitting this rook, rook e2, knight f4, rook came, queen to d5. And I was like already attacking on the g2 square, and in this position the best move for white was to play queen g4 and continue the game. But he went for playing knight to f3, and here queen to f5, simply hitting the rook and the bishop. I want to take the knight in this position. We can't take the bishop because the rook is hanging. So in this position the best move was to play knight to e5, and here black is still better in this position, but he played a3, and here bishop into, pawn into. You can't capture with the queen because you lose the rook. So basically pawn takes, bishop to d6, king h1, because my idea in this position was very simple, absolutely simple. Queen h5, give a check and meet my opponent. That's it. So where was I? Okay, bishop g6, king h1, I played queen h5. He played h3 and like it's already over. King g1, I played rook c8 because I wanted to move this rook away, and now I simply mated him like this. Here in this position, when you can say after, like, I can't mate him like in this position because currently the rook covers him. That is the reason I first decided to move this rook away from the c2 square, and then I simply decide to mate him. Yeah. So it's the completion of the first round, guys. So yeah, very easy win, I would say, not too hard for me. So now it's going to be slowly and steadily, the players are going to be much tougher. And now let's move to the second round. So in the second round, I was having the white pieces, and my opponent is now a rated player, having the rating of 1271. Not much, but yeah, it's the fact. So I started the game with 1d4, d5, c4, c6. So he basically chose the Slav defense. And knight c3, knight f6, very common. Knight f3, and he played bishop to f5. Bishop f5 is already an inaccurate move, I would say, because in this position, usually the game continues with e6, but he decides to play bishop to f5. And can you find the reason why this can you call as an incorrect move or mistake? Okay, so all of you came up with the move straight to g5. This is the reason that bishop f5 is actually a mistake, because in this position, for example, if you check with the pawn, queen b3, and you basically hit the pawn, and in this position you don't really want to push this pawn because of e4, and the light squares are extremely weak. I think even e3 is still better. And yeah, if you try to queen b6 is the best, and in this position we can already sense it, like here white is simply a pawn up. But that's the reason he captured with the knight, and still queen b3, queen d6, knight takes, queen takes, and here I decide to give him a check so that his castling rights get broken. King d8, I captured the queen, king takes. So what's happening in this position is now materially it's equal. White is having two double pawns on the b file, which looks extremely weak, but on the benefit side, we can say that this rook on the a file is extremely open, which can be considered as a good thing for white. I played bishop to f4 check, you see it, and till here I knew the theory. So after I just my theory ended, I simply went lost. In this position, what was I thinking was that I wanted some position where I am having the knight and he should be having either of the bishop. I don't care, but basically I want this knight versus bishop idea, so which can be much beneficial for me. So what I simply did is I simply went for capturing the knight, which wasn't the best idea. In this position, I should have simply played knight to g2, and I'm simply threatening e4, which can't be stopped, which is unstoppable. And you can't And the reason I didn't play it because I saw something like knight f6, and I was thinking that after knight b4, knight c2 can be considered as the most dangerous move. But then after knight a6 cannot come in this position because of e4. I simply hit the bishop, and if it come back with the bishop, you simply lose the knight. And not a knight, but basically you simply lose a pawn, and now it's winning. It's completely winning position for white. So basically capturing the knight was an absolutely bad idea. He captured with the king, and in this position, black is the one who is slightly better. Can you believe it? So I simply played knight e5 in this position, jumping up with the knight. And yeah, I was already going wrong in the way, because in this position, black can simply play f6. Black can simply play f6, and here black is extremely fine. Black is even better in this position. But he played bishop to b6, bishop to g6. Yeah, that's what 1200 players do. Just do not take it personally. I'm just joking. So bishop to g6, e3, e6. I decide to trade the bishop. He has to trade the bishop because I'm threatening to capture the bishop. Like for example, he plays some random move. I can take, and you can't take with the pawn because of this. You lose this pawn, and if you try to lose this, take with this pawn is extremely weak, and white is extremely comfortable. That is the reason he took the bishop, and basically I achieved my goal having the knight versus bishop. So he played bishop to g6, controlling all the 4 squares of the knight, which was very good idea by him. Very good move, I would say. King e2, as I knew that it's the end game, so keeping the king in the center is a good idea. Rook to e8, rook to a4, because I knew that his idea is to play e5. He wants to play e5, but he can't in this position because of this. And now it's completely winning for what? You can't defend it because of this. So it's completely lost. So rook a4 I thought was a nice move. King c7, rook c1. And in this position there could be some ideas like this. As the pawn cannot capture because the pawn is pinned. So he moved the king, which I again didn't like. I thought that he can simply play in this position a6, followed by something like rook g8, and like it's fine position. But he played king g8, and here I went for playing f4. Because what was I thinking was, like I simply can't exchange the knight for the bishop, because now it's more like a draw position. If I need to make any progress, I need to keep the pieces on the board. So I decided to grab some space by playing f4. He played f6, and I was like e4. Like, if I need to win, I need to grab some space. So I played e4, he played e5, I took, and I played d5. Now he has to take, or else I'm going to take. He can't push because knight's a close position, which is extremely good for white. Extremely. Like knight c5 is already winning because I simply win a pawn. But even if the pawn would have been on b6, it's still, like for example, if the position is like this, it's still winning for white. Because it's a close position. That's the fact. So he decided to capture the pawn. Pawn takes a6 because he wants to move the rook. He can't put the rook in this position because the pawn is hanging. So he pulls the pawn, rook c4, king g7, b4, rook to c8. He wants to trade the rooks. And in this position, the reason I played b4 in this position because I want to play knight to c5. And if it takes, I take. And I was like, yeah, it's fine, good position. But I captured the rook. Knight c5 was the idea, but the reason I captured the rook was, and I didn't play the knight was, I thought that after takes b6, and I was like, I can't push because of this, and I can lose the pawn. And if I take, he can simply take, and king g6, and basically I simply lost the d pawn, and I don't think that this is a winning position for me. So, but the winning move is simply b4, and you can't take it's winning. But I didn't saw a b4. b4 just didn't came in my mind. I don't know why. So I decided to capture the rook. And I was like, yeah, it's still winning. I'm having the knight versus bishop, and I was like, yeah, king e4. I captured this pawn. I'm a pawn up. I'm like, what more do you need? He played e4. He gave the pawn to get the pawn. Bishop h2, and I was like, it's still winning. It should be winning. So like, I'm having the knight because I'm mostly in the 90% of the cases I already prefer knight and the bishop versus bishop. Because knight travels 64 squares, bishop can only travel 33 squares. I play knight to c5. Here I thought that perhaps he's going to bring the king near the center and I can give him a check and get this pawn. And it's winning. But definitely he saw through it. He played g6, stopping the entry of my king. Now it's a draw game, nothing's happening. So I play king d4, h5. He's trying to push on the king side, which is the correct idea. I play knight e4. And in this position, there are only two moves for black to draw the game. You should either play king c7 or king d7. And both the ideas of the moves are basically to stop d6. I can't play d6 because I simply lose the pawn. And now it's black who is completely winning. But he played bishop to f4. The reason he played bishop f4 was he wanted to push the pawn to g5. But he simply missed d6. And in this position, after playing h4, I simply got my king in, and even if you try to push this pawn, I can simply play king e7, and I'm already giving a check and making a queen, and so on. Like if you take, I take. If you try to push, I block it, and if you push, I play king knight f2, and I grab this pawn and make a queen. It's winning. So basically, after king e3, the game was around the time control of the game was 60 minutes plus 30-second increment after each and every move. So he was already playing on the seconds and decides to give up the bishop, which was extremely winning. And I was like, yeah, knight's winning. Now you can't win this game. So eventually, the game went on of a couple of moves. I'm just going to show you completely. I slowly and steadily wasted some time, but eventually I won the game. Now I'm basically having the queen, so he basically resigned. So this was the end of the second round. So now, as you can see, this second round was much tougher than the first. So now let's move to the third round. Moving on to the third game. Now I'm playing with the black pieces, and I'm on the second board of the tournament. And my opponent is having the rating of 1935. Close to 2000. So definitely perhaps he's going to be stronger than me because I'm already having the rating of 1654. Which is like 1935 much more than the 1654. So basically my opponent is higher rated. I'm playing with the black pieces, so definitely he's the favorite to win. But yeah, so he starts with 1c4, the English opening. Now play d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, knight to c6. This is the common structure in the English opening. Knight c3, bishop to b4. I was like, I want to develop my pieces. Like that's for my plan. d3, short castle, bishop to d2. Rook e8, simply developing the piece. Knight f3, d6, short castle. I played h6 because I wanted to stop like this and like the bishop and the knight. Because I basically want to develop my bishop to e6. I want to develop my bishop to e6, but in this position, knight g5 is coming up, which I didn't like. So basically, I first stopped it by playing h6, and it also prevents the back rank mates. So he played a3, and I need to capture. I can't go back because he will simply grab some space, and I didn't like this. I basically captured the knight, and after bishop takes, bishop to e6. And here my idea was simple. I want to play queen g7, and I want to put my bishop to h3. I want to trade my knights for bishops because the bishop on g2 is extremely stronger compared to the bishop on e6. So he played b4. He wanted to grab some space on the queen side, but I was like queen g7, and I'll still go with my plan. b5, knight to e7, knight to d2, and I was like c6. I took because if I should do something else, I'm going to still play this, and it's fine. It's still fine. So yeah, so he took knight takes. I can't take with the pawn because I didn't want to take with the pawn because of c5. c5 was a move that was coming to my mind, and I was not having a good position. I can't push out. Like if I push, I lose this pawn. If I take, I still lose this pawn, and I'm having this double pawn, double weaknesses, which is extremely bad for me. So that is the reason I captured with the knight, because now the knight protects the pawn. He played rook b1, and here I played bishop h3. Classy move. Although the best move was in this position was to play d5. But bishop h3, in this position, he was actually having around 5 minutes, and I'm having around 30 minutes full clock. Definitely, I'm having a time advantage. So after playing bishop to h3, my long idea was, like, if he takes, I take. He grabs my pawn on b7, thinking that he's a pawner. Knight g4, threatening a mate. The only move to stop is to play knight to f3. And here I'm going to play this. And I want to play rook f6, give up my rook for the knight, and eventually I'm going to mate him on h2. And he can't stop it really. Like, for example, if I make a random move like take, I'm going to take. And it's force mate, you can't stop it. Even if you try to, like, for example, if you try to move this, I'm still going to mate you like this. That was the idea. So he basically saw through it, but it took him like around 1 to 2 minutes, which was good enough for me. He played move e4. Good move. I captured the bishop, queen to c7. And the reason I played queen c7 was I want to redo, first of all, what's happening in this position. In this position, my g6 pawn is a backward pawn. I can't really push it in the future because of the e and the c pawn covering the d5 square. And I was like I'm not having in play, so basically I need to just look out for the good square for my pieces. So I was starting to think, and I was like, the c5 square actually looks a good square for the knight because it also attacks the pawn on d3. So I played queen c7. He played f4, which was very predictable by me. Knight g7, and he played rook f3. He was trying to defend the pawn on g3, and I was like knight c5 still. So basically, I was simply rerouting my knight, which was a good idea, I suppose. He played knight f1. Now the idea was extremely clear. He wanted to put the knight to e3, followed by knight to d5, hit my queen. And in this position, I was starting to wonder what is the plan for black. How can I actually continue the game? Because the white plan is extremely clear. If he wants to put the knight on d5, he can perhaps play f5. He can start to attack on my king. Like, what am I doing? Like, how should I even continue the game? So I was starting to think, and I was like, and then it suddenly came into my mind. I simply played f5. I was like, let's play. And here, what was my thought was like, if he takes, I'm going to push. As I'm pushing the pawn, if he takes, I'm going to take with the rook. I was like, perhaps it's a fine position. I don't know. f6 is coming up. I don't know. The game is absolutely complicated, but as he's having low time, so I think it's going to be tougher for him. And soon I can bring my more pieces into the game. And I thought perhaps it might be the best. But actually, after e to f5, the best move in this position was to play knight to d2 with knight to d4. And after takes, now it's a good position for black. Definitely, much better. But eventually, after playing f5, he decided to play knight to e3, which was like I didn't calculate knight to e3. I was like, perhaps he's going to take some of it, and I was like, fine. Like in this position, if he tries to capture this, I'm having knight to e5. Hitting this rook, and if he takes this, I'm having this. He's losing this pawn basically, so it's good for me. Like eventually, this pawn is also hanging. So basically, it's good for me in the both cases. But I simply missed 93. So I was like, he's simply hitting my pawn on f5. So I basically need to capture the pawn. Pawn takes, and I play knight to d4. Like in this position, I can't really capture the pawn on e4 because of queen to d5 check. I lose the knight. So I was wondering, what can I play? Because knight to d5 already coming up. So I play knight to d4. My idea was, if he takes, and that's a fine position. Like, it's fine, it's equal. I can play. But actually in this position, the best move for white to take the advantage was to play knight to d5. Queen to d7. And the Indian says the rook e3. Is the best, right? But still, it's very complicated. He's already having just +1 advantage, which is not good enough to win in time pressure. So he decided to capture the pawn on e5. I captured the rook. He basically decided to give up the exchange, which was completely blundered. The best was actually to perhaps capture the knight practically and go into the endgame. but I simply gained the exchange sacrifice. So I captured this pawn, I captured this pawn, and I was like, this is completely winning. Like he's having 4 pawns against my 4 pawns, and I'm simply an exchanger, which is completely winning. After bishop b4, I can simply win the game by playing knight to g7. I block this pawn. It's winning. It should be winning. I first give a check, and I played this. And guess what? It looks absolutely fine. And my idea was to capture the pawn. I'm hitting the knight. Perhaps he can give me a check, king h7. I'm still hitting this. He can defend it, but I think I can still hit it. And yeah, eventually I can push this pawn as a bait and capture this pawn. It's playable. I'm winning, but I simply missed this. 93, I simply missed it. I don't know why. He hit my rook. He covers this. The bishop covers this. The rook covers this. I need to move the rook. I can't hit the knight because after bishop takes, it protects it. So basically overall, I'm losing a piece. I am losing a piece. And I was like, at this point, I was simply blowing my mind. I was like, how can I blunder a piece in this position? How can I? I played rook e2. That's the only move he took. I played b6. Bishop goes. I capture the pawn. And I was like, fine. I have taken the d6 pawn. I'm still hitting the bishop. It's still not easy for white to continue. Play knight f5, the only move to defend the knight and the bishop. Rook d5. I'm hitting the knight, hitting the bishop. In this position, the best move was actually to play with g4. The reason is, if I try to play g6, trying to hit this knight, he can play knight to g3. And basically, I can't capture the bishop because my rook is hanging. But he played rook f1. And now g6, knight into king h7, rook check, king into. And now I'm again an exchange up, and I was like, now this is winning. Now I can't let it go. So after g4, it was a cheap trap he's trying to make. If I try to bring the king, he's going to give me a check and capture my rook. But I was like already aware of that. So I first played g5 because now I want to simply do a mate in 1. He gave a check. I decided to create the rook, bring the rook, check, and I basically gave up this pawn for this pawn, which is like now it's winning because the rook cuts off the king. So now it was simply winning. I covered the square, I pushed, blocked this, I bring the king, and I capture the pawn. If like I capture the pawn and after this, it's winning. I stop this and I make a queen, it's winning. And even if you just make a random move, I'm going to still play this. Like if you try to come here, my idea was basically to do this. And after like bishop move somewhere, I'm going to play b2, and eventually he needs to sacrifice for the bishop. And yeah, now I'm going to capture both the pawns. Like if you even my queen, might just need to mate with the rook, and it's winning. That was the reason he decides to resign the game. He decided to resign the game. Yeah. Like he decides to resign the game when over here. And it's winning. So basically, I won the third game against an opponent who's having the rating of 1935. Currently, I'm on 3-on-3, which is a good score. So as you can see, the games are becoming tougher and tougher. Now let's move to the fourth game. Now to the final game of today, fourth round. My opponent is having the rating of 1851, and I'm having 1654. Playing with the white pieces, I started with 1d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and we have the standard queen's gambit. He played h6, and here the line is to capture the knight, which was just preparation of me. So I played e3, short castle, rook c1, and here I was already suspecting that he would simply play c6, perhaps knight b7 or c5. I was suspecting these three moves. Knight c6. I was like, what? But okay, soon I realized that he wants to, what was his plan was, he want to capture the pawn and he wants to play e5. That's what his plan. And in the worst case, he want to play knight e7 followed by c6. So I simply developed with the bishop, and I knew that he's going to take and he's going to play e5, and I pushed the pawn in the position. If I wanted, I could have kept it simple like this, but the reason I was not playing this is because I was not liking the fact it's an open position first of all. In second, he's having the bishop pick, which already gives him a slight better position. So I was like, I don't want this. I went for the pushing up the pawn to d5, pull the knight back, short castle, bishop to g4. Now I thought that again, his idea is to capture both my knights and I want to play the bishop versus knight. The reason I thought that he wants it because like during the in the second game when I was watching the games of the players, I saw that he was playing with the knight against the bishop. So I already got to know some idea that he likes to play against the bishop versus knight. And I don't want that. So I played knight to e4, and my idea was like, if he takes, he can't take because he's losing the queen. So he moved the queen to b6. h3, he moved the bishop. I can't play g4, I can, but it only just weakens up my king structure, bishop g6, and it's good for black. So I played knight g3, forcing the bishop to capture the knight. He can't go back now because he's losing the pawn. So you have to capture. It was a must move. The queen into f3, bishop d6, and now I was losing the pawn on b2. A normal move would have been to play something like rook c2, defending this pawn, which is actually the best. I thought, I don't want a normal game. I want to play knight f5. I want to sack a pawn. He went for sacking it. He went for capturing the pawn after 10 minutes of thought, and and now I'm going to show you my idea, my deep idea. Rook b1, queen t3, rook c1 to queen d3, and I saw this, and I knew that he's going to play it because now here I can't capture the b7 pawn because I'm losing the rook, and like every move after rook b1, queen c3, I still can't capture because I'm losing the bishop. So I can't capture the pawn. I'm losing the rook. But my idea was actually to play queen f5. Queen f5, I'm hitting this pawn. And perhaps I can move the bishop like somewhere and I can hit this pawn. So he has to play bishop d6, which happened in the game. h5, h4. And I believe now you can understand my idea. My idea in this position is because I want to play h5. Bishop d3 and boom, h7 is a mate. Game over. Game over. He can't play g6 because of h5. And in this position, perhaps he actually take a huge amount of time. He played rook e8. And yeah, definitely it was a good move. Because if I for example, if I try to push this pawn, now he can play e4, stopping my bishop. And he just needs to push this, and he's better. And if I can't play this because of g6, I need to put the queen to e4 or else if I move the queen, like for example to over here, I lose the bishop. And I was not liking this fact. Like it's very uncomfortable. Like even perhaps this. That is the reason I first played bishop b5 hitting the rook, rook e7 to rook to c4. To capture the pawn, I played rook to g4. In this, till here, the engine says that black is slightly better after being 2 pawn up. Definitely is going to be slightly better because he's having the 2 pawn advantage. It looks like perhaps white can trap black queen, but nothing is happening. The best move for white is to play queen d3 and play the game. Rook g4, a gamble by me. And basically, like it was the second game of today, and like the game was around 3 p.m. It was like 5 p.m. when we were in this position, and on the normal days, I usually sleep in the afternoon. So I'm already feeling very sleepy at this particular point of time. And I played rook g4 without any calculation. He played e4, which was I knew that he's going to play, and here I played queen f6. I'm threatening mating one. He captured the rook. He's a rook up now. He's a rook and 2 pawn up. And he thought the game is over. But I played bishop f1, and basically now the bishop came and it saved the day. Bishop f1 stops the mate, and what is happening in this position is white is threatening a deadly mate on g7. If you play g6 h5, you can't push because queen into h6, you'll still lose and it's over. In this position, he was having like around 5 minutes. He decides to play bishop e5. He decides to give up the rook. And guess what? The unbelievable move was black first must play g6, h5 and queen d1. And it's winning for black. You lose the rook. The rook is hanging. He simply missed queen d1. And I also missed queen d1 in the game. And like after the game, we both were silent. And we were like, yeah, the game was probably draw. But he was completely winning queen g1. I know that during the game, what he thought was after g6, h5, he's actually looking at this portion of the game. He didn't saw queen d1 because he thought that after h5, and as we both were visualizing that this position would come, after h5 he would like, you can't push, the h6 is hanging, this is hanging. So he basically forgot to count this queen d1, the rook is hanging, which is very possible. Like g6 and here queen d1 and simply hangs the rook. Like if you go here, the rook is hanging, this is hanging, this is hanging. I can't really protect it. Like if I try to protect it, no, I think perhaps now g5 is winning because now nothing is happening of it. It's absolutely safe. I would say queen d7 takes. Black is the rook up. But luckily he played bishop e5, decides to give up the exchange back, being a 2-pawn up. And I'm hitting the bishop. And yeah, so you need to protect the bishop. You can't play bishop f6 because I can capture the bishop and it's losing for black. So he played queen b2, which was the move. But in the exchange, he gave up the e4 pawn and now black is only 1 pawn up. Bishop d6, queen d7. This happened in the game. And I don't think that this was the best move, just pulling up the queen back. I think it was a completely wrong idea. But he was less in time, so we can understand that. Well, he made many mistakes and I played queen c8. Queen b8 also looks like the same idea because it hits both the triple pawn. But the reason I played queen c8, he played queen b6. I knew that he's going to play queen b6 because that's the only move to defend both the pawns. I played bishop d3, he played a5, he wants to push the pawn. I knew that he's going to do it and I played this. He pushed, I played this. I'm threatening a mate. He played this. He has to play this to stop the mate and I was like, takes, and like, yeah, it's a draw. It's a draw. I knew. It's a draw. Like, it's the opposite color bishop. You both are having the 4 pawns. He's less on time, I can't lose. So I played king g7, I played bishop g2, very critical move. Very critical move. It's actually the best. If I play bishop b1, king f6. King is coming in. If, for example, if I stop it, now king e7 is winning. I thought that perhaps this is winning, and like I need to stop it, and the king gets an entry. But actually, king e7 is winning like this. So basically, I first played bishop to c2, hitting this pawn, and if he tries to push this pawn, now I can still play e4. He can't push this pawn because he loses this pawn. He can't push this pawn because after bishop e3, I simply lock it. So basically, neither of the pawn can move. So after bishop c2, he pushed this pawn, bishop b1 now, very critical move. King, he decides to march with the king. I played f4, stopping his entry of the king everywhere. c5, he decides to do this. e4, taking every square away from him. decides to play h5, bishop a2, bishop d7. And after the bishop b8, on the move number 48, he offered me a draw. He was having seconds, I was having 5 and 7, around 7 minutes, or perhaps even 10 minutes. And I was agreed to a draw. Because the reason I took the draw, because I can't do anything in this position. I can't really do anything in this position. Like if I, for example, if I push in this position, he can perhaps even go for capturing up. He can try to do this. I don't want to take any risk. I know that I'm not the one who's winning. I can't actually win this position. There is no way. Like if I try to bring the king over here, he can simply grab this pawn and make a queen. That is the reason I took the draw, because I don't want to take any risks. But yeah, I knew that this is it's a draw, so obviously we decided to take a draw. So these were the 4 critical games of the tournament, of recaps. 5 more games to go. Yep, that's it. So currently after 4 games, I'm having 3.5, and out of 120 players, like the starting rank of mine was like around 20, like 22, 23. And currently after the completion of the 4 rounds, I'm currently in the 5th position. Very good for me. The top 4 players are going to be selected for the nationals. That's it. So I'm aiming for the nationals to get selected for the national, and yeah, that's it. So I hope that you must have loved the analysis of the game, and if you did, then make sure to like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to my channel, and make sure to click the notification bell for new upcoming videos. And yeah, I'm going to see you soon, and make sure to share this video with everyone. I'm going to see you soon. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.